At the beginning of the movie, we see a furious mob heading toward Jarwo's house. Some neighbors try to stop them, but the crowd brutally kills anyone who stands in their way. Meanwhile, Jarwo's wife, Wati, gives birth to a baby, but a few moments later, she starts experiencing pain again, to which Amina checks her and realizes it's twins. Hearing this, both of them become excited, but by that time, the mob has already reached their house. Jarwo peeks out through the window and sees them preparing to burn the place down. But their leader tells everyone to stay quiet and calls Jarwo outside. Jarwo tells Amina to protect the newborn, while the mob begins setting fire to the house. Jarwo steps out to confront them, but they immediately attack him, after which they grab him and slit his throat. Their leader then walks inside and tells Vati to suffer, who asks him what she has done wrong, but he doesn't respond and simply walks away. Amina escapes, carrying one of the babies, and from a distance, she watches the entire house go up in flames, hearing Wati's agonizing screams echoing from inside, and the scene ends right there.
Like, comment, subscribe to Recapss Horror.
Years later, at a boarding school, Aziza is packing to go home for her holidays tomorrow, but her friend Sarah has no parents, so she'll have to stay at the school. Later that night, Sarah hears a woman crying in their dorm room. Curious, she slowly approaches to check who it is. But as the woman turns around, Sarah suddenly wakes up screaming. Aziza rushes to check on her and asks what happened, to which Sarah tells her she saw a woman holding a baby who told her to come home. Aziza calms her down, telling her it was just a nightmare. The next day, all the students leave the school to return to their homes for the holidays. After everyone departs, Niai goes to Sarah and tells her that if she needs anything to eat, she can always come to their house. She even says Sarah can help her tidy up during the break. And if Sarah wants to rest or sleep, she is welcome to stay at their place as well. That night, Sarah is alone in her dorm room when she hears a woman's voice telling her to go home. She freezes and slowly looks around the room nervously, but there's no one there. She takes a few hesitant steps toward the door, glancing around the room, when suddenly the voice speaks again, and the woman holding a baby lunges at her, causing Sarah to scream in terror. Niai rushes to check on her and finds her perched high up on a pillar, who whispers, "I want to go home." She then crawls down the pillar, repeating the same words again and again, before she lunges forward at Niai. But Kiai intervenes just in time, and Sarah loses consciousness, as if whatever was inside her just slipped away. The next day, Kiai sits with Sarah and tells her that he wants to reveal something to her because this is the perfect moment. Niai then hands Sarah a folded piece of paper, saying this is the place where Amina lives. But when Sarah opens it, she finds a drawing inside. Confused, she asks what it means, and Kiai explains that when she was a little girl, he and Niai were living in Wonoenggal, where Amina brought her to them, and they took her in and later brought her to this boarding school. Sarah asks if they will allow her to find Amina, and Kiai simply nods in response. Sarah excitedly reaches the Wonoenggal village to know about her past, and she tells a man that she is looking for Aziza, Hassan's daughter. The man asks, "The one in the boarding school?" And Sarah confirms, saying she is her classmate. The man drops her off at Hassan's house, and Aziza is so shocked and so happy to see her there that she practically jumps with joy. She immediately brings Sarah inside and asks how she even got there, and Sarah just says it's a long story. She'll explain everything later. Aziza takes Sarah outside to get something to eat, where a boy asks Aziza if she's new here. She tells him she's actually from this area. She's just been staying at the boarding school. She then introduces Sarah to him, and the boy introduces himself as Majid, saying he's been here for 2 months. Aziza asks if he works here, and he says he's an intern at the community clinic. Later, Hassan meets Sarah, and Aziza excitedly tells him that this is her classmate, the one she's always been talking about. As they sit, Sarah tells Aziza that Kiai finally told her something about her parents. He told her that a woman named Amina brought her to the boarding school when she was only 2 years old, and she used to live in this village. Aziza asks if Amina still lives here, and Sarah says she isn't even sure if Amina is still alive. She then asks Aziza if she'll help her find out more, saying maybe her father might know something about her. Aziza then asks about Sarah's father, and Sarah quietly says that Kiai only mentioned Amina. Aziza goes outside and asks Hassan if he knows anyone named Amina, to which he says no, and hasn't heard that name before. She then tells him Sarah is staying here until she finds Amina. But Hassan immediately says it's not a good idea, as he lives alone and people will talk if a girl suddenly stays in his house. Aziza says Sarah will sleep in her room anyway and starts to go back inside, but Hassan stops her, saying he already said no, and if she won't tell Sarah, he will. He then goes inside and tells Sarah that he doesn't mind her staying at their house, but the people in this village are very sensitive. He explains that many outsiders come here to secretly abort babies conceived out of wedlock, and if she stays in their home, people might start assuming something suspicious is happening there. Sarah understands and tells Aziza that she's here to find Amina anyway, not to have a sleepover. Aziza apologizes, saying she doesn't even know what her dad was talking about. As they continue walking, Sarah asks Aziza where the prayer hall is, and Aziza replies that hardly anyone goes there anymore, as she hasn't seen it herself in a long time. They then go to the abandoned prayer house, but Aziza says the place needs some cleaning, suggesting that Sarah can do the sweeping while she does the mopping. She also tells Sarah that she'll be staying with her tonight. As Aziza steps outside, her father arrives and asks what she's doing there. She tells him she's staying, but he insists she must come home. Aziza then goes back to Sarah and tells her that she has to leave, and that she'll see her later. Later, Idris suddenly freezes in terror when he sees a ghostly woman floating in midair. His voice shakes as he points for Karyo to look, and Karyo also jumps in fear. The woman lunges toward them, and both of them panic, stumbling over each other as they sprint away, screaming. They rush to Hassan and tell him that they saw a Kuntilanak. Hassan doesn't believe them, but when they swear that the spirit looked exactly like Wadi, Hassan pauses, turns to them, and asks if they remember the new girl who just arrived. He tells them she's staying in the prayer hall, and if they really want to keep this village safe, they should keep an eye on her. Meanwhile, Sarah steps out, hearing haunting cries echoing around the prayer hall. She slowly steps toward the direction of the sound, her heartbeat getting louder, and her eyes locked on something. When Aziza suddenly startles her, Aziza apologizes and tells her she ran away from home because she wanted to stay with her. Sarah says she heard something, then asks what about her father, and Aziza replies that she'll deal with him later. Later that night, Aziza wakes up hearing a knock and a woman's voice whispering in the hall. As she turns, she sees the Kuntilanak there, who suddenly lunges at her, but Aziza jolts awake with a gasp, realizing it was only a nightmare. Sarah asks her what happened, and Aziza brushes it off, saying it was nothing. She only had a bad dream. The next day, they go to the market, and while they are talking to a vendor, an old woman passes behind them, and Sarah suddenly feels something strange in the air. Aziza asks the vendor about Amina, and she replies that there's only one Amina in this village, but she hasn't seen her in a very long time. Sarah asks Aziza about the old woman, to which Aziza tells her that's Darmi, and she's a shaman. She adds that people here believe more in mysticism than in God, which is why the prayer hall was eventually abandoned. Later, Darmi throws a plate of food through a small opening, and a trembling hand reaches out from inside to take it. Meanwhile, Aziza and Sarah run into Majid on their way, and Aziza asks if she can visit the clinic someday. Majid says, of course, and Sarah adds that they'll drop by later. Aziza then asks if he knows anyone named Amina, but Majid says he's never heard that name before. Aziza explains that Amina is Sarah's relative, and they haven't seen each other for a long time. Majid suggests he can check the clinic's records, since not many people come there, so it should be easy to look through the data. Later, Linda thanks Majid and invites him over to her house for lunch, but he notices Aziza and Sarah waiting for him outside. Linda rolls her eyes and says, "Way to kill the mood," before telling Majid she should get going. After she leaves, Aziza immediately asks Majid if he found anything about Amina, and he says he checked the clinic data, but there is no Amina listed. Sarah then asks if he knows someone named Darmi, but Hassan suddenly shows up, saying he's been looking for her. He grabs her by the hand and forcefully drags her away. Majid drops Sarah at the prayer hall and asks if she's really staying here, suggesting she should stay at the clinic, but Sarah says she's afraid people will get the wrong idea. Majid then asks, what's the deal with her and this Amina? To which Sarah pulls out the paper and says she's been trying to ask around about this drawing. Meanwhile, Aziza asks Hassan why he hates Sarah so much, saying Sarah is a good person and she actually feels sorry for her because she doesn't even know who her real parents are. Hassan replies that exactly for that reason. He's worried as they don't know her origins, and he orders Aziza to listen to him this time. Majid has fixed the microphone and begins reciting the prayers, his voice carrying and echoing throughout the village. Darmi is shocked to hear who is reciting the prayer, and it's also revealed that Darmi has been keeping Amina imprisoned in that room. Later, Karyo and Idris go to investigate the prayer hall, and Karyo throws a stone at it, startling Sarah. Then they hear the sound of leaves rustling eerily in the trees, and Idris, gripped by fear, panics and runs away from the place. Shortly after, a voice calls out Karyo's name, and when he turns, the Kuntilanak suddenly attacks, lifting him into the air before violently throwing him against a tree, killing him instantly, and Karyo witnesses the entire horrifying scene. Idris runs to Hassan and frantically tells him that the Kuntilanak killed Karyo near the prayer hall. The next day, Majid asks a woman who passed away, and she tells him it was Karyo. He asks what happened to him, and Linda replies that he was killed by the Kuntilanak. Later, Aziza visits Sarah and asks if it was Majid who recited the azan yesterday. Sarah confirms and admits that he's a kind person, willing to help her find Amina. Aziza asks, "Is that so?" and then walks to sit on the doorstep. Sarah joins her, and Aziza asks, "So how did it go?" Sarah replies that she's asked around, but no one seems to know Amina, though she hopes someone still remembers her. She then tells Aziza that she saw Linda yesterday, who said Karyo was killed by the Kuntilanak. Aziza says she kept hearing about his death on the way here, and warns there will likely be more victims. Later that night, Linda visits Darmi, confessing that she has been fancying Majid. Darmi remarks that the boy seems to be influencing the villagers, and ever since he arrived, people have begun to distrust her. She then asks if she knows the girl he's always hanging out with, and Linda admits she has no idea, only that her name is Sarah. Darmi tells her she can help, but only if she manages to get the girl to leave the village. Later, Linda approaches Idris, and he can't help but comment on how beautiful she looks. She tells him he has to help get Sarah out of the village, saying this is Darmi's command. Idris asks, "Not because she's close to Majid, right?" And Linda replies, "Both." She adds that ever since Sarah arrived, the village has been compromised. Idris agrees to help, but sets a condition. He will deal with the Kuntilanak incarnate, but Linda must stay by his side. Linda reluctantly agrees for the sake of the villagers, and Idris leaves. Meanwhile, Hassan's radio suddenly cuts off, and as he adjusts the frequency, the fire in his stove flares up, startling him, and to his horror, he sees the Kuntilanak standing there. Terrified as he bolts from the house, her eerie, chilling laughter echoes in the air behind him. At the same time, the Kuntilanak suddenly appears in front of Idris, freezing him in sheer terror. She then lifts him into the air and brutally kills him, impaling his head on a nearby branch. The next day, Linda announces that the village is no longer safe, as they all know that Idris and Karyo have already been killed by the Kuntilanak. She claims that Darmi believes this is happening because the child of the Kuntilanak is living in their village. Linda then points at Sarah and says, "Here she is." Sarah asks, "What are you talking about?" And Linda insists she should leave the village, but Aziza intervenes, saying Sarah is here only trying to find her relative. Sarah asks Aziza why people are blaming her for Idris and Karyo's deaths, and Aziza admits she doesn't understand what Linda was trying to imply either. Sarah worries that the villagers are beginning to hate her and asks if she should return to the boarding school, but Aziza gently tells her to calm down. Later that evening, Sarah reads the Quran, unaware that a group of angry villagers is heading toward the prayer hall. Majid arrives with another man to stop them, and the man asks, "What exactly are you trying to accomplish here?" The villagers turn on him, saying he lives here, so he shouldn't take her side, but the man tries to calm them, pointing out there's no proof of anything. Majid takes full responsibility for Sarah, and the man insists there's no need for such chaos and urges everyone to disperse. Meanwhile, Hassan tells Darmi he's convinced this must be Wadi's doing, and insists Amina has to be killed. Darmi orders him to carry it out, but when Hassan goes to the shed to find her, he's stunned to discover Amina isn't there. Sarah tears the paper apart in frustration and breaks down in tears, unaware that the Kuntilanak is watching her from the darkness. Meanwhile, Hassan finds Amina and holds a machete on her throat. She pushes him away and asks what more he wants, but he says that people like her deserve to die. He then lunges to kill her, but the eerie laughter of the Kuntilanak echoes through the air, and she then appears in front of Hassan. He asks her what she wants, and Wadi replies that he murdered her family. She then suddenly lunges at him and tears the skin off his face, killing him in a brutal way. The next day, Sarah asks Majid if he has seen Aziza, saying she hasn't shown up today, to which Majid quietly tells her that Aziza's father has passed away. Sarah and Majid attend the funeral, and Sarah tries to comfort Aziza, but to her shock, Aziza suddenly calls her the child of Kuntilanak. Later that night, Amina is sobbing by a grave, saying, "I wish you rest in peace." She apologizes to Wati and begs for forgiveness, but Sarah asks her what she's doing. Amina asks who she is, to which Sarah sits beside her and introduces herself. Amina apologizes to her, then tells her name and reveals that Sarah's parents entrusted Sarah to her when she was born. When Sarah asks where her parents are, Amina explains that her mother was the most beautiful girl in the village. So many men desired her, but both Darmi and Hassan held a deep grudge against her father. Darmi hated seeing her father happy, and Hassan was also emotionally wounded because of her mother, and in the end, they murdered Sarah's parents. Amina then tells Sarah that this grave belongs to her mother, and she apologizes to Wati once again. Sarah helps Amina to her feet and gently tells her to come inside. But as they turn, Darmi appears behind them, silently approaching like a predator in the dark. But Wati lunges at her, and the sound of bone tearing echoes through the night, revealing that Wati has torn her jaw apart, killing her. The next day, before leaving, Sarah thanks Amina, saying that she finally knows who she truly is now. Amina apologizes, saying she couldn't take care of her, but at least now her mother can rest in peace. She then stands up and walks back inside the prayer hall, and when Sarah tells her that she will be returning to the boarding school, Amina gently tells her to take care of herself. On her way back, Sarah says that the threads of her fate as Kunti's child cannot be changed, but she will always remember her. However, just before the scene ends, we see Darmi's hairpin pinned in the hair of another woman, and it's revealed that she is Aziza.